Imagine you walking into a situation like that where there's a guy who's got an M14 rifle with live rounds, full metal jacket rounds. The thing that's remarkable about the movie today is you understand that Stanley wasn't necessarily making a movie about Vietnam. He was making a movie about war.
Ah! You don't scare me! Work on it! Sir, yes, sir!
Stanley Kubrick is at the top of the list of people that pushed me to be the best that I could be.
All right, let's go. Take the coats off.
This time on Kubrick In Conversation, we're speaking to an actor and filmmaker known for his work in Birdie, Shortcuts, and Stranger Things. Today, we're going to be talking to him about his role as Private Joker in Full Metal Jacket. It is, of course, Matthew Modine. Matthew, thank you for joining me today.
It's my pleasure, Paul.
First thing I wanted to ask you was, how did Full Metal Jacket come to your attention, and how was the casting process for you?
You ready? Turn over.
Kubrick was auditioning people.
Wasted the interviews, roll 34.
But because there was no casting director, you had to videotape yourself and send in a VHS tape audition to participate in the casting process. And one day I ran into Val Kilmer in a restaurant, and he was pissed off because he said that he'd heard that I'd been cast in Full Metal Jacket. And I told him he didn't have to worry about that because I didn't go through that process of auditioning. And as it turned out, he did quite elaborately, dressed up in costume, out on a location. But when he told me that, I ran out to a payphone and called up my manager and asked him if he'd heard anything about it, and he hadn't. And then it feels like it was a month later, maybe it was 2 months later, I received a script through my mail slot from Stanley Kubrick himself. He said, "Hello, my name is Stanley Kubrick. I'm a film director." And at that point in his life, to have to introduce himself as a filmmaker was incredibly gracious and humble. And I hoped that he was interested in me in the role of Joker. And thankfully, that's what he was interested in.
What is that you've got written on your helmet?
Born to kill, sir.
You write "Born to Kill" on your helmet, and you wear a peace button. What's that supposed to be, some kind of sick joke?
No, sir.
What is it supposed to mean?
Do you remember the first time that you actually met with Stanley?
Yeah, his driver, Emilio, came and picked my wife and I up to go out to Chittickbury for a dinner. And this kind of rather shabby, bearded man came out of the house, shy, and said, "Hi, I'm Stanley." And we had dinner together. And that was the first of hundreds of dinners that we had over the course of making Full Metal Jacket.
Do you remember your first day filming on set?
Yeah, it's one of the photographs that I probably get asked to autograph more than any other one. Adam Baldwin is just over my right shoulder. There's palm trees, and there was a bunch of smoke. I remember the first direction he gave me. Stanley came over and characteristically pulled on his beard and looked down and said, "Act scared." And, you know, the thing that's great about that direction is that we didn't need to have a conversation about the psychological makeup of what it is to be scared. What are you scared of? You know, just act scared.
It surprises so many people that that was not that far from central London.
Yeah, I guess people are still surprised that somebody with Stanley Kubrick's genius and his ability to fabricate, create worlds, whether it was 2001: A Space Odyssey, The Shining, The Incredible War Room, and Dr. Strangelove.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
So when they said we were going to film in London at Beckton Gasworks, I didn't question it at all. The film is filmed backward. We did Vietnam and then boot camp, partly because of the haircuts, and I think partly because Beckton Gasworks was scheduled for demolition and we had to get in and get out. You know, the buildings and stuff, it was incredible. And because it was supposed to be the city of Hue, was appropriate to the film. He very cleverly used shipping containers to be able to block out what would be discernible from London by just stacking 6 stories of shipping containers.
Let's go! Let's get it done!
That was our Vietnam for several months, where we went to play war. And it was convenient. It was close to his house. He didn't have to get on a plane and go to a jungle with too many bugs, too many mosquitoes.
Joker's so tough, he'd eat the boogers out of a dead man's nose, then ask for seconds.
Listen up, Pilgrim. A day without blood is like a day without sunshine.
I really enjoyed the Private Joker's humor. There was one scene when I meet Animal Mother that was scripted. He challenges me.
Oh, you seen much combat?
And I was supposed to take my M16 and stuck it under his chin and said, you know, fuck off. I got twice as many hours in country as you. If you don't back off, I'll blow your fucking head off. And we did it, and we did it, and we did it. And Stanley, he says, you know, Matthew, this isn't working. He goes, come on, let's go in the trailer. Which is extraordinary, again, because on film sets, this doesn't happen. You don't just stop and go into the director's trailer and have a conversation over a cup of coffee. You know, you sort of have that on the set because there's no time. We go in the trailer, and Stanley is asking me, what would I do back in Utah, where I grew up, if a guy like Animal Mother got in my face and tried to make a fight? And I said, I'd make a joke. And Stanley was like, oh, that's really fascinating. And I said, and what I'd really love is if I could get another John Wayne line in there. So he and I started thumbing through Gus Hasford's book, The Short Timers, and I found this Peanuts line. And so it turned into, you know, Private Joker making jokes about this guy being an asshole.
I'm gonna tear you a new asshole.
Well, Pilgrim, only after you eat the peanuts out of my shit.
You know, it was good fun.
Stanley was quite well known for repeating takes. If you're doing big explosive scene, would Stanley in those situations go, right, I've only got so many times which I can capture this moment?
No. I mean, we were at the wall for a month.
What's up? Changing direction. What, are we lost? Joker, shut the fuck up.
The wall being where Animal Mother runs in. And it's funny because the Steadicam is sensitive to wind, and there was a lot of wind coming off the Thames. So they had to create a screen. It was a whole circus of people carrying videotape players to record what was being shot on the Steadicam. But it was amazing to watch.
Looked like something, didn't it?
And I think that Adam Baldwin must have made that journey 2-3 dozen times running into the town. Yeah.
Fuck! Ha!
America has heard the bugle call.
What happens when you get to a scene like the haircut scene?
And you know
Where obviously I'll keep redoing it.
Yeah, that was a winner. Yeah, the only scene that I really remember hitting more than 100 takes was, and it's an absurd scene, of Arliss Howard and I in the bathroom mopping the floor and talking about Leonard being a Section 8.
I think Leonard's a Section 8.
And Arliss and I started feeling like we were losing our minds because it was just like, no, let's go again. Let's go again. Let's go again. Let's go again.
It don't surprise me.
But what I would say is that I don't have bad feelings toward any of the directors that I've worked with that pushed me to be the best that I can. And Stanley Kubrick is at the top of the list of people that pushed me to be the best that I could be.
All right, let's go. Take the coats off.
How long did you eventually end up being on the film for?
We were in England for a long, long time. There comes a point where you stop looking at clocks and stop looking at watches because you can't measure time when you're working with Stanley. You know, on a movie, there's a call sheet. On the call sheet, there's a list of things that you're supposed to accomplish before the end of the day. On a Kubrick movie, a call sheet is just a suggestion of what might happen. So we were months into making Full Metal Jacket, and I don't think we completed the work on one call sheet. And I started thinking, it must be me. I'm failing. And then I realized that he didn't know. He was searching for the tone of his movie.
Should we try it? Let's give it a crack.
Now, the genius of Kubrick was Stanley created a world and an environment, a working situation where he was never put in a situation to have to compromise. That's brilliant. That's genius in itself. And by the way, he was one of the best producers I've ever worked with because he created that environment by owning his cameras, by owning his lenses. Probably the biggest expense at Beckton was shipping the palm trees from Spain. He's a smart man, you know.
Here's my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fighting, this is for fun.
There are some real standout performances in the film. One of them being, obviously, the drill sergeant, Hartman.
This is my gun, this is for fighting, this is for fun.
Arlie Ermey was the technical advisor on the film. And Tim Colcheri, who ends up playing the door gunner in the helicopter,
Get some, baby!
he was hired as the drill instructor. And Stanley wanted him to practice his lines, auditioning the people that were going to be in that boot camp sequence. And Tim Colcheri would do it for an hour, and his voice would get sore. And rightfully, he said, you know, I don't want to blow my voice out before we start doing the movie with me shouting at all these guys. So Arlie Ermey would step in, and Arlie didn't work from the script. Arlie worked from his experience of being a drill instructor and said the most outrageous shit that any of us had ever heard. You know, I mean, who in the world had ever heard, you're the kind of guy
that would fuck a person in the ass and not even have the goddamn common courtesy to give him a reach around.
I mean, where did that come from? Whose imagination?
I'll be watching you.
And it wasn't fair. It was an unfair fight for Tim to defend his role. And for Arlie, he very much so wanted to steal that role away from Tim Colcheri. And he did.
No shit. What have we got here? A fucking comedian, private joker. I admire your honesty.
I will say that Arlie Ermey did not have the ability to pull a punch.
You little scumbag! I got your name. I got your ass! You will not laugh. You will not cry. You will learn by the numbers. I will teach you. Now get up. Get on your feet.
He wasn't a trained actor. By the end of it, he certainly was, and he went on to have an amazing career. But if we did 30 takes of him punching me, he punched me about 15 times.
Left shoulder.
So much so that by the time we got out on the field,
Private Pile, what are you trying to do to my beloved corps?
Sir, I don't know, sir!
Vince was going to get slapped because he didn't know his right from his left. Arlie Ermey went to Stanley and told him, I just had a conversation with Vince, and Vince wants me to slap him. And Stanley said, what do you mean he wants you to slap me? He said, he wants to get it over with. He doesn't want to do it 100 times. And Stanley said, well, if that's what he wants. And he slapped Vince so hard, if you watch his hat.
Are you sure, Private Pile?
Sir, yes, sir!
What side was that, Private Pile?
Sir, right side, sir!
I'm surprised Vince was able to keep his molars in his mouth because Arlie really gave him a good walloping.
Speaking of Vincent D'Onofrio, what are your memories of filming the bathroom sequence?
It was intense. You know, imagine you walking into a situation like that where there's a guy who's clearly gone bonkers and he's got an M14 rifle with live rounds, Full Metal Jacket rounds.
7.62 millimeter. Full Metal Jacket.
I think that, you know, must have been a relief for Stanley to be in a small set because it's a controlled environment. Now you had a scene, maybe for the first time in the whole opening of the film, where it was just the two of us and then the addition of Ermey coming in to get shot and killed.
What is your major malfunction, numbnuts? Didn't Mommy and Daddy show you enough attention when you were a child?
It wasn't normal, you know, it wasn't real, it was surreal. I can't imagine the scene being any different than what it is. Two of the most famous cuts from films, I think, is the early man throwing the bone up in the air that becomes a spaceship. And to go from him blowing his brains out to Nancy Sinatra through the streets of Da Nang. I mean, it's one of the great cuts of cinema.
You keep saying you got something for me.
And you also released a book, The Full Metal Jacket Diary. How did that come about?
A friend of mine gave me a medium format Rolleiflex camera and said that, you know, Stanley used to be a photographer, and if you bring this to the set, it might be a way to crack the ice and start a friendship with him. Stanley asked me one day, what am I doing with that old piece of shit camera? And I said, what are you talking about? This is a Rolleiflex. I know what it is. Listen, if you're going to take pictures on my set, this is the camera you need to get. And it was this new camera that had just come out, autofocus Minolta. And I couldn't afford to buy this camera at all, but I bought it because he had given me license to take photographs on his set. But I loved the medium format Rolleiflex, so I just kept it tucked inside my my flak jacket. So I had all these incredible photographs of working with Stanley Kubrick on Full Metal Jacket, and I kept a diary while I was making the film. That's what Full Metal Jacket Diary became.
Do you have a personal favorite photograph from the book at all?
Yeah, there's a photograph that I took of his chair. I was helping the prop guy put the props in his truck. And so I picked up Stanley's chair and I stuck it on a chunk of concrete out in a field. And I thought it was funny, and I took a picture of it. But in Stanley's death, that photograph of his empty chair becomes quite poetic because it's a chair that will never be filled again. The thing that's remarkable about the movie today is you understand that Stanley wasn't necessarily making a movie about Vietnam. He was making a movie about war.
You don't scare me! Work on it! Sir, yes, sir!
All that training that we go through in boot camp to go and fight and lose, really, to a young Vietnamese girl with an AK-47 and a tube of rice around her neck. I mean, it's brilliant.
This is my rifle. There are many like it, but this one is mine.
I certainly never imagined that it would be a film that we'd be talking about 40 years after making it.
Me love you long time. Me so horny.
It's crazy that it continues to be relevant, that it's a part of the conversation.
I wanted to see exotic Vietnam, the jewel of Southeast Asia. I wanted to meet interesting and stimulating people of an ancient culture and kill them. I wanted to be the first kid on my block to get a confirmed kill.
Well, Matthew, thank you so much for your time today. It's been much appreciated looking back at this film with you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, Paul.
M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E. Hey there, hi there,